This conference will now be recorded.
Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. We'll start with board communications and Commissioner Bangs, we'll start with you.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to make note I've had a couple meetings this week. Today's most recent one was with the SWCD, and they were going over their budget, their current budget, where they're at right now, talking about projections and grants, and then their draft for their native plant sale that's going to be coming up. And I really enjoyed the meeting. I'll be frank, I've learned a lot, and it's just good to see good work being done. And they made note of assisting private landowners with their watersheds, and I'm kind of excited. I asked them to share the information when they get their native plant sale figured out, to be able to share that information with you, and then also with the rest of our community, because I feel like that's what a wonderful outreach that is. And I looked at the plant list, and it's pretty amazing. I was really happy to see that. And then Commissioner Thompson was just chatting right before we got started with this meeting. I took a moment last night to testify regarding our redistricting, and my main focus was talking about communities of continuity, making sure that when we're redistricted, that we're bunched with communities of like needs. And it was nice to see on the meeting last night a lot of BIPOC issues being raised and concerns being raised. And I agree 100% with them that when we're redistricted, that we're done in a manner that gives each community, small or large, the best options for representation. And I was also very clear in the opening of my statements that this was not in reflection, my comments were not in reflection to who is currently serving us or of any discontent, because that wasn't my purpose. My purpose was 10 years, we've changed so much that I really wanted us to take that time to look at each community's new identity, and just try to have an effort that we're to be served. So anyhow, that was a little bit, and I'm sure I'll share more before our commissioners meeting. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was at AOC Monday, and as you may recall, commissioners, AOC has spread their policy committee meetings out over the week so that if you want, you can go to lots of them. And I recommend it because they're fascinating. I always learn something, and there's always something relevant to give and get about Clatsop County in those meetings. So hooray for going to them and attending. There was a contentious issue, the local option to regulate firearms, and it was I think we kind of fractured on that one, colleagues. So I've been talking with commissioners on all sides of the issue, which is what I do, so that we can expand the AOC repertoire to be not only advocacy, also a place to practice, to do best practices that we share, to also practice convening skills, but also to take on the gnarly policy issues that don't seem to have another venue for collegial resolution. So that's the challenge, and that's what we're rising to. I mentioned the fact that I'd had an email about the civics education bill. I tend to think civics education is a pretty good idea, and I think we should have more of it. So I hope we'll look at that. The third thing is I've been hearing a lot about COVID vaccines. I got a call from the fire board chair of the Mist-Birkenfeld Fire District. So working with our health department about that so that we have both a reasonable process that is coherent, that's coordinated, and is responsive when somebody says, quick, what are we going to do? How do we respond? So that's the dynamic tension. I'm delighted that we've got our public health director with us and now and going forward, because this gives me not only confidence but hope, which is essential in a time of COVID. Today is a sunny day in my part of the world. There are more and more cars and more people and more signs bolted through trees. And didn't I just get a call about signs bolted through trees? How can people who proclaim themselves be bolting signs through trees? So go away, don't come here, stay home. You know, we have this situation where, again, we've got four kinds of people. We've got permanent homeowners, part-time homeowners who rent, and part-time homeowners who don't rent. We've got people who rent those homes, and we've got people who just come out to visit. I had a lovely chat with some folks on the beach, a young family with dogs and kids and all of that. They are the famous day trippers because, by golly, they love the ocean. They don't have a lot of money, and they want to come and enjoy that ocean, access to which they find in my neighborhood. So the issues continue, and I'm looking forward, colleagues, that we are going to help resolve and create a community of good neighbors. That's my ambition and my hope. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I have to admit, my wife and daughters were down in your neck of the woods today enjoying the beach. They were one of those day trippers, but there certainly were a lot of people out and about. And I would say your involvement with AOC and your participation with AOC, we really benefit from that, Commissioner Thompson. Thank you so much for being our representative with AOC. Now we'll start. I see Commissioner Webb. You're next on the list there, Commissioner Webb.
I'm sorry that, you know, there are what, 4 kinds of Zoom type meetings, that 4 different programs, and they're all different. And I've kind of had it with figuring out how to be smooth on any of them. I really don't have much to report. Been spending a lot of time lately with our resiliency, with our Public Works resiliency group, and meeting a lot and really doing a lot of really serious work about facilities design. It's been really great. It's been very intensive, and it's moving fast, and that's cool. The situation with NOAA gets better and better all the time. It looks like we're very close to a transfer of authority that our county council is working on. I think that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. And again,
let me do one other thing.
Have you engaged on that? Go ahead.
May I make it clear that Commissioner Thompson is not our delegate to AOC. One of the great things about AOC is that it's for all of us, and it really, you know, where your level of interest is matters. There's always some place you can plug in at AOC, right, Commissioner Thompson? I mean, there's just always, and usually multiple places. I'm very sad that we're not doing that. The new commissioners aren't going to be doing County College in person, Have we said that Commissioner Thompson is our, what district is it? Are we District 7? I can't. Right, she's our District 7 chair, which is an agglomeration of several counties. And she is our district chair there, but I'm not going to let her be the sole delegate to AOC. And I hope you don't either, because really there's so much to learn. at AOC.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner
It really
Webb. I
is.
appreciate that. I think we all have our ways to be involved in AOC. I would say that Commissioner Thompson has a leadership position and has had a leadership position within AOC for a long period of time. So I do appreciate her involvement. I think we benefit from it. Commissioner Toyoka.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Along with Commissioner Webb, working with Public Work Needs Assessment, just like to share that it is a process, and it is, my engineering background, I really appreciate that it is process driven. So far we've been in developing a program to determine suitable sites. There was a visit of sites to get the pros and cons and real world, this worked, this did not work. We sat down for a few hours. We graded and evaluated sites based on data, not subjective, but we had actual data. And we started paring down the number of sites from, a litany of them down to, 3 that are very accessible, acceptable to the program. And now we're going through another process where you can test fit sites onto those properties and you evaluate those for feasibility. So again, I appreciate the process, and it is a very data-driven process, not subjective. So I think that, our constituents, everyone should appreciate the fact that it's very thoughtful process. It is, data-driven, and it is not one of that's taken lightly.
Agree, Commissioner Toyoka, and I'm so glad that, and I know Mackenzie appreciates your involvement and engagement as well. Thanks again for taking that on.
Absolutely, it's an honor.
My only update would be that I did testify at the Housing Committee last Thursday, or what date was it? Actually, it might have been 2 weeks ago now, but it was the House or Senate Bill 622, which was on levy assistance funding. And this is the same bill that we testified on 2 years ago. I think it was well received. It was at an odd time. It was the same day that the House Republicans or the Senate Republicans were walking out. So I noticed that some people were in and out of that committee hearing, but I think it went well. And actually, Philip can give us a update on that and other bills when we get there. Do we have any report from any of the staff at this time? We'll go ahead and discuss the formal agenda. Anybody have any questions about the agenda as presented? None? Looks good. Well, then we'll go right into our legislative update. And I see Philip.
Good evening, commissioners. How are you doing? I appreciate you guys having me here again. First, my apologies for missing our last noon one. We just had conflicting where we were meeting with the Oregon Health Authority Government Affairs team, and so I apologize about that. That is completely on my bad. But I do have some quick updates for you. One is I'm going to start with budget side of things. It kind of seems like there's a lot out there, and so I'm going to kind of silo it into budget and then policy. On the budget front, we are continuing to move forward through phase ones of budgets. We wrapped up around probably 6 different agencies, or the legislature wrapped up about 6 different agencies over the last week or since the last time we talked. The ones coming forward next or starting within this week, we'll start hearing budgets from ODOT, which I believe we want to pay close attention to. I saw that there's some aspects to us, whether that's within the Department of Aviation, whether it's regarding the tracking of the road, the Highway Fund Trust, things like that. So we're going to be watching that. We also have the district attorney's budget, water resources, and then right after water resources, we get into the big budgets of DEQ and the Department of Revenue and ODF&W. I know we're really watching for ODF&W because of fishery funding, items like that, to see if anything's changed there. But those are ones that we have marked from the adopted legislative agenda that we might have some interest in some way, shape, or form. So those are coming up within the next 2 weeks across the subcommittees. They will start posting paperwork on those budgets probably I mean, 2 of these start tomorrow, but they still haven't posted anything. So as soon as they get there, we'll be reviewing them and sending notes. The big thing on budget, though, is we passed a milestone today. The process that they're using for this budget cycle is based off of 2 very large unknowns. We're doing a phase 1, and they're holding back on producing a co-chair budget, which is usually the next big step in the budget writing cycle. You get the governor's recommended budget, which is what she would like the state agencies funded as. And then that's kind of the starting point. The tri-chairs and then take that, and they view what is the difference between her proposal and the current service level. And they propose a working document that subcommittees start falling within. The best example is they might say, and I'm using very round numbers here, these are not exact numbers. They might say, Human Services Committee, out of the agencies that you have oversight on, you have to get within, $40 billion. That's the allocation for those. And they try to work down the budgets or work up the budgets to fit that. So the reason we normally have that by now, but there've been 2 big unknowns. One is what's the next round of federal aid that's going to be coming to the states, and 2, dependent on COVID vaccine distribution. We've gotten 2 answers on that, or at least somewhat answers. One came from our meeting with the Oregon Health Authority government affairs team last week. They actually are surprised. They are starting to see, normally when you apply for FEMA dollars, the state has to spend that money and then gets reimbursed sometime later. There's actually FEMA money coming in on the front end first for vaccine distribution, and they are anticipating in the hundreds of millions for that. And then they will, all of the processing will be on the back end. So that kind of clears one logjam, and the unknown is how they put it in the Ways and Means documents. The other one is that federal aid that passed the Senate this weekend. It just passed the House today. That has significant amounts of money that is earmarked for Oregon. And I say earmarked in the sense that we traditionally get about 2%. But when you're talking $1.9 trillion, that's real money. And so I believe there's still local government money in there. We're going to be watching when that lands in Oregon, how the governor distributes that. That will be very interesting because the legislature will be in session, but the money still goes through the executive branch. So that's something we're going to keep our ears on the ground at and report back to you on. But that will start moving the budget conversation forward. As after that, what we've seen in the last week on policy committees is what the commissioner just alluded to, is because the Republicans did not show up for the Senate floor session. There's been this kind of holding of breath of they did come back for following floor sessions, but what is going to be that trigger that if they walk again, what does that mean? What we do know is that you're starting to see these policy committees in both chambers move policy bills out quick. They're using lines like, we'll fix the technical issues in the next chamber. We just need to get this moving in case there's a walkout. That's not probably, in my view, my personal view, not probably good public policy if you know there's an error in a technical bill, but you're just pushing it out to fix on the other side. You want to fix that on the front end. So things are going to move a little bit quicker. We're seeing that. This last week, they're pushing hearings in marijuana distribution revenue, or marijuana revenue distribution. My apologies about that. They heard from cities on, I believe the city of Ontario introduced a few bills about the distribution of wanting to change the funding formulas. And then there was a county bill as well about distribution levels. So we don't know where those are going. It definitely followed the tradition of them trying to group like bills together for public hearings, and then either specifically with marijuana distribution revenues, they either then pass an omnibus bill that they pick and choose and amend into, or they will just pick 1 or 2 of the bills. I'm not hearing a movement on the city distribution one where it will reallocate by population rather than just number of facilities. But there is a lot of conversation about it, but I don't get a feeling that that's going to move. The other conversation that's getting going is overtime. There are multiple bills out there, one between labor and management. They just had hearings on that, and that looks like it's moving forward. There's also the ag overtime bill that is starting to get hearings as well. And so all indications are that the majorities want to move that forward as part of their majority platform or their agenda. I don't know nobody's done vote counts on that yet, so they're just moving forward with hearings at this time. But those are the two items dominating the policy conversations. So that's our budget update, our policy update. And I just wanted to, on the back end, last thing is just flag that on our bill tracker, as we've gotten responses back from department heads, in the next 2 weeks, we have pulled those bills that the county has listed as priority ones, which is we really want to engage or we want to be tracking those. And there are currently just scheduled 4 hearings. We have 1 priority one that we have marked as opposed. We have 2 marked as supports, and then we have 3 that we still need a review and decision on. And I didn't know if, Commissioner, you wanted me to bring those up now, or would you like me to put those 5 or 6 in an email and kind of get a feeling of, do we want to put a letter in? Do we want to testify? And on the needs review ones, just kind of get your feeling of where we need to be.
Well, I
I'd like
don't
to
know what.
see that. Yeah. I'd like to see the list that you're operating from. I haven't seen that yet.
Would you like an opportunity to review the list and then give feedback? Is that what you're requesting, Commissioner Webb, just to have an opportunity to review on your own?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I was just wondering if it would be more, I guess, beneficial for him to send these bills or the description of these bills to us, and then we can review and provide comment or feedback.
Be helpful?
Great.
Perfect. Okay.
Can people hear me? Okay.
And some of them are not scheduled to the 15th or 16th, so there is time for that feedback. So, but I will get them in an email for everyone.
So one question I had, Philip, I saw that Congresswoman Bonamici's office sent out some estimates of allocations from the American Rescue Act, and one of it says estimated county allocations for Clatsop County would be 7.8 million from the American Rescue Plan. Does that sound correct to you, or sound?
My view, if you're asking our opinion, is I have not seen those numbers yet. What I am going to be looking for is when this money is not directly allocated to the counties or local governments, it will go through the executive branch. And so it will be interesting to see how they distribute that. I think what we saw in the last rounds is that there was a push and pull between the executive branch and counties and cities of, we had our view of knowing what's best for our budgets. And I think that there was maybe some disagreement on how it eventually rolled out. And so I haven't seen numbers, Commissioner, but I also don't know what the executive branch, or if it will just be dumped in the legislators' lap of how to allocate that money. So I apologize. That's a very vague answer, but.
Okay. Yeah, it's broken out by what states, cities, counties should receive, and it was something that came from Representative Bonamici's office. So,
yeah, and she could be. I mean, she's definitely closer to it than I am right now. I think they just passed it today, and so.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, for instance, there's already some conversation going on the Oregon Health Authority of, will that just go out to public health offices to distribute, or will it stay within OHA and they distribute it through community-based organizations? That wasn't discussed on the federal level. And so I think that will be very interesting to see how it plays out once the money lands in the state. What I did get from OHA is that they do not expect a long delay for it, that they are seeing money get from the feds to them rather quickly for the federal government. So that's good news.
Great. Commissioner Thompson has a question.
Thank you. So, well, I confess I'm confused because I've been a state agency person, as I've said, since 1968, and we have this process. So we have to get approval and go up through the executive branch. We can't spend a penny until the legislature allocates, except now we're in a situation where federal money comes in and then the executive branch doesn't have to talk to the legislative branch or get their approval or their buy-off. Really?
Let me correct myself. There was a legislative touch, I think, during the interim It was done through the e-board, however, and what we saw was the executive branch received the money, and then what they requested from the e-board was just an authorization of other fund expenditure authority, because the money will come through as federal dollars, but when it stops at DAS and goes to others, then it gets changed to other funds. So I don't know what that will look like now that the e-board can't meet and it's the legislature meeting. So that's the unknown that everyone doesn't, it could give the legislature a good negotiating position, so.
Oh, baby, except the legislature is not monolithic.
True.
Okay, so this could get really interesting. Help us understand how we're blessed to have Senator Johnson as one of the tri-chairs. It appears that the thing to do would be to focus our attention and our comments, like 10 million other Oregonians. No, there aren't that many of us, kidding, but there'll be a lot of comments headed towards Senator Johnson. So Chair Quila, I know you have an ongoing relationship with Senator Johnson. When I'm looking at how do we comment on these bills and not do a handy violation, it seems that we need to go through the county manager. So we're not deliberating out of public view. So I'm looking, as Commissioner Tayoka says, what's our process? So I trust that process will be handled in such a way that we don't violate public meetings law and still can give timely input, number one. And number two, that we focus as a governing body on how to give the most effective input, I'm assuming to Senator Johnson, because no matter where the legislative budget is managed, she's the one of the three most influential Oregonians doing this. Does that make sense? I see Commissioner Webb nodding. Does that make sense to everybody else?
And commissioners, if it's okay to give some guidance, that what I have heard from the tri-chairs, including Senator Johnson, is if we are going to offer that guidance, giving guidance on how would like an option A, option B, and option 3, because they do have to do negotiation as well with leadership, and sometimes it's not the first option they propose that it's accepted. So if they have options that they know will work for their communities, in this case Senator Johnson for counties, I think they appreciate knowing where's the wiggle room, and if somebody says no to this, what would be the backup plan? So if that's helpful. So.
Well, Commissioner Thompson, I have a question as well. So we are looking at a short time frame. You said the 15th or 16th where we need to have some kind of input. Is that correct?
Were you talking to me, Commissioner? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so the 15th was related to capital construction information needing to LFO. The 19th is the first chamber deadline. That's not so much associated with the budgets because Ways and Means are exempted from those deadlines. It's just policy bills that are subject to that. So I think you have some time. I don't mean some time like months, but it doesn't have to be tomorrow if that's an okay answer. Sorry.
Well, I think Commissioner Thompson's was a good point. We don't want to do something that's not in public and have a discussion out of public view on these and take a position. So, but I look in the time frame. I just didn't know if we could actually get through having a full discussion of these matters in the period of time. What I didn't do. Commissioner Thompson, go ahead.
Well, so this is, I mean, I'm looking at the county manager and I'm thinking about county council. This is why we pay you the big bucks. Help us design a process that is legal and effective, please, in this topsy-turvy, foreshortened, rich environment.
Well, if I might, Chair Quayla, members of the board, what I would say is that we are in the very early stages of gathering information, which at this point is not available for us. And so what I would say is that once we get any indication of how these resources might be filtering down to us, we will certainly engage your board in those conversations. And the benefit of us meeting weekly now is that we can fit those into a time frame. And if we had to, we would do acrobatics to make sure that we put together a public venue for those conversations. So we will do that. It's just right now, it's so early. We've heard the same number Chair Quayla mentioned, but we have no idea when, how, and in what true amount might actually filter down. So, and then what are the parameters? I mean, what are the expectations and any kind of reporting requirements back? So there's a lot that still needs to be worked out, but we will certainly engage your board and have a process that meets the public litmus test. So.
Thank you, Don. Commissioner Thompson.
Sir, I am grateful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am grateful for that reassurance. One thing I'm crystal clear on, the last time the metro areas got their money directly from the feds, the rural areas, which is almost everybody else except a few counties, which shall remain nameless, got our money held back and we didn't get all of it. So I think if there's one point I trust that my colleagues agree on, we want all our money.
And Chair Quayla, if I could just interject real quick one more time, is that
Yes.
One of the things staff has been talking about is really some of those what if scenarios. What if the money came directly to the county? If that happened, we would put that money in a segregated fund, and then we would work with your board in developing a funding strategy for that money that then we could be accountable for. So we are talking through just what the administrative logistics are if that did happen. And of course, if it doesn't happen that way, then we'll just be flexible like every other county is in putting together whatever the appropriate administrative and governance processes are for however we receive those funds.
Thank you, Don. Do we have any further questions for Philip? We're just about out of time for this section. Commissioner Toyoka?
I did have one quick question is the last relief package, there's money at the state level remaining that's unallocated, for the counties. Is they're still in process of trying to get that money allocated to the county at the county level?
Yes, that conversation got brought up this week as well. Yes, they are, but they're also trying to figure out if they can leverage that. The pressure to get it pushed out went away when they extended the deadline. And so I think now they're trying to figure out if they can leverage it somehow with other funds. And then, of course, then the storms hit and that got pushed behind as well. So I don't think it's on the top of their agenda right now, but it's on the agenda to figure out how to get the money out. So it's not a satisfying answer, and I apologize about that, but that is just the conversation that played out.
No, it's the question leads to bear like what it could happen again with this current relief package as well. It's since the process is not repaired, it's going to happen again.
Well, the one thing that was noted in that same conversation is that the Secretary of State in her audit plan put in there that she is going to do an audit of the first and second round of federal aid that came in and how it matriculated down to governments. And that the conversation was, will that expand to include this new relief package? And the answer from her staff was yes. So just in the back of everyone's mind that there is a probability that will be included as part of the state audit plan moving forward. So
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Philip. I think
one
Go
last
ahead.
thing, Commissioner, is that education bill that you brought up on the front end. They are still having the public hearing now. They gut and stuffed it, and they just changed it from having it to demonstrate proficiency in civics to graduate and allowing schools to define what that means to just adding a half a credit of civics to the graduation requirement. So that got gut and stuffed to just adding half a credit, and that is having a public hearing right now. So that was my last update. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Philip. Appreciate the update very much. And And PacWest, you'll be back at our work session next
Yep.
week?
Will do.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much.
All right,
We'll move
bye.
public health update. Margot Lalich, our county health director, is here.
Hi, everyone. Got too many windows popping up here. Sorry about that. Let me pull this back up. There we go. Good evening, commissioners. So a few updates for you. We have four clinics going on this week. Tonight is in Astoria. Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday are always in Astoria. Tomorrow is going to be our largest event. We're anticipating or scheduling for 1,400 doses. The population's 70 years and older. In preparation for these larger events, we've done a little bit of restructuring with the task force and the incident management team in terms of leadership. So we've added in some resources. Some of you, or if not all of you, know Vincent, and he's really stepping into that role to relieve Chris. A lot's been on Chris's plate, to be a backup as site lead as well as a safety officer. And then we brought in support for also just clinical management of the operations. We've also in the process of recruiting for a new coordinator for the PIC. And I really want to commend Tiffany and Tom and just the whole team. The PIC is so well organized, and Colleen, and running really well. And so we want to make sure that there is a smooth transition. I want to remind everyone that even though we're in the vaccination phase and this sense of relief and opening up, in our mindset, we already need to start planning for this summer, when there is this surge of people coming to our community, as well as just realizing that we're going to be seeing something next winter. We don't know what that looks like. And so planning, I think, is a really, really important section within this whole incident command structure at this point in time. We are also going to be receiving a lot more vaccine, and more of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is a single dose. And we're focusing those doses on our outreach strategy. Earlier in your meeting, you mentioned you were contacted by someone from Mr. Birkenfeld. I've already made contact, or at least left a message for him today to follow up on that. And I've appointed someone within the health department to be that liaison as we develop our strategy for outreach. So we're already in the process of making that happen. And in fact, some of our foster homes that have residents and staff who have not been able to be vaccinated, one of our nurses will be going to their homes on Monday to vaccinate them, again with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm working closely with Tiffany and Tom and Chris and others just in terms of messaging, because we have multiple operations now that are going to be happening simultaneously. So making sure that how we're communicating and what we're stating is providing clarification and is not confusing. Just in terms of the number of doses that we've administered to date, you can go on the dashboard for OHA, but it's not, we're actually ahead in terms of calculating doses because they have to upload that data. But there's a total of 9,500 doses that have been delivered as of today, or at least this morning. And on the dashboard now, you can go in county by county and look at the percentage of the population that has been vaccinated by age group. And so I wouldn't say this is specifically set in stone. And one of the, I think it's also important because one can look and go, wow, there's 60% of the 80 plus population that's been vaccinated, or 29% of the 75 to 79-year-old. And that data can be misconstrued, right? We always know it's not exact, but that we also have to look at what percentage of the whole population, this age group, it comprises, and then it makes it's a little bit relative after that. So while there's lots to be excited about, I think that's a sufficient update for you, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Director Lawlich? Commissioner Thompson?
Just quickly, if you have a contact person or a number, when commissioners get calls, if we say, call this number, that would be extremely helpful. If you send that to all of us in an email, that'd be just great.
Yeah, that would be our PIC number, so we'll make sure to get that to you right away.
Thank you.
Yep, 503-325-8500. Commissioner Bangs?
You may or may not know the answer off the top of your head, but the age group 65 and over, what percentage of our county is that age group?
Oh, the total population? I actually can't tell you off the top of my head because I haven't worked with that population and coming back into it. I can tell you that of that population, 16% of them have been vaccinated to date.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Yeah, in terms of that, the relative to the total population, Chris and Tom and I were exchanging, having a conversation about that earlier today, but I think it's important for context.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
Any other questions? Commissioner Webb?
I just wanted to say it's nice to meet you, Margot. I wish we were all meeting, of course, in a different way, but we are so lucky to have had you step up. So blessed. So thank you so much for doing this for us. And I sure look forward to working with you, and I'll bet the rest of the commissioners do too.
Commissioner Bangs?
I just had a comment while you're here. I am forever impressed with your task force, and I hope that you can pass that information on to them. Anytime I'm sending an email to county manager or to someone else, already they have figured the issue out and are trying to solve it. And so the constant pivot process that they are on is impressive. They are working extremely hard, and I just want to express my appreciation because last week I sent an email, county manager already had the answer, and that in itself is impressive. So please let them know they are pivoting with the best of them, and it's amazing. So, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that feedback. I see at least 2 or 3 of them on this in this meeting, and they're really an exceptional leadership team, and the county is very fortunate to have them doing the daily work and the nightly work they're doing.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. Thank you, Director. We'll move on to to approve the appointment to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee, which is on page 3. And Tiffany Brown is here.
Great. Thank you, Chair Quila. Good evening, commissioners. I'm pleased to come before you tonight with this agenda item, very specifically because I took over this committee in 2015, and we have not had a full representation of the citizen positions since that time. And tonight I'm coming to you with considerations for filling those positions and creating a full committee for this important area that we work in. We have 2 appointments tonight for the citizen positions. The first is one of our current members, Gina Myslivietz, who is who is a Columbia Memorial employee and has served as a physician advisor for the ASA. You'll be getting a replacement a recommendation for that position in the next month or two. But in the meantime, she expressed interest in filling a citizen position. Our charter, our bylaws say that you cannot fill a citizen position if you're affiliated with EMS, and she is not. And so she satisfies that requirement. The second position, another one we're excited about, is Lila Wickham. Lila Wickham is a Cannon Beach resident and the leader of the Medical Reserve Corps. And so it's really fortunate for us to get somebody applying to the committee that has that level of medical experience. In addition to the two appointments, we have a minor housekeeping issue tonight. When I appointed Joey Daniels and Tita Montero, when I came to you for their appointment in 2019, I overlooked one of the bylaws that states for a first term, you serve 3 years, and it's the subsequent terms that you serve 2 terms. I inadvertently put them in county records for a 2-year term. And so the other part of the motion tonight is that I'm asking you, we've checked in with both of them and they are happy to serve a 3-year term. And so I'm asking you to amend that housekeeping matter. I think that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions? That's great. Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. And I the pleasure of working with Dr. Gina Mislevietz. I always call her Dr. Gina because I struggle with her last name. She's fantastic, and so I'm just glad that she's going to be serving in this capacity. Continue to serve in this capacity.
She is. Did I say it right? I just kind of.
No, I'm the one that's. No, I'm the one that always messed it up. If anybody should be able to have a pronunciation of a tough last name, it's me. But I struggle.
I'm noting an oversight on my agenda item summary, and I don't know if you have a written motion in front of you. Do you not?
Oh, excuse me, Chair Quayla, members of the board, real quickly, if I could. This is a work session item, Tiffany. This will come back to the board in 2 weeks. So.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. I didn't know if the recommendation was galvanized here or not. Thank you for your time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Tiffany. Next is the Tsunami Evacuation Facilities Improvement Plan and grant update. It's on 13. And Gail?
Yes, I'll be doing that this evening. Thank you, Chair. Gail Hendrickson, Community Development Director. And I'm here tonight just to give you a brief update about the status of our Tsunami Evacuation Facilities Improvement Plan, or TEFIP, which is a much more convenient acronym to refer to it by. This is a grant project that we were awarded back in August of 2019. And the purpose of it is to look at ways to tie our evacuation routes and make them into multi-use, dual-purpose routes that would serve as recreational paths and trails throughout, most of the year for residents and for visitors to the county, but also to act as evacuation routes. And the thinking is that this would be a tie-on and complementary to the wayfinding signage work that emergency management has done over the past few years. And if you educate visitors on the location of trails and where they lead and where they begin and how they are laid out, that the thinking is as they come back here to visit and there should be an emergency, then visitors will be more likely to know where the evacuation routes are. So I really wanted to stress also that this is not part of the resiliency project. This is a completely separate project and is looking at very different types of infrastructure, just recreational pathways and emergency evacuation routes. So even though we were awarded the grant back in 2019, COVID has set our project schedule back, as it has everything else in our lives. And we are probably about a year behind schedule at this point. But the good news is in August of last year, Department of Transportation, which is really the grant funder for this project, hired a consultant, Parametrics, which is a firm that's out of Portland, and they have put together the schedule that's up on your screen right now. We began in January of this year with our kickoff meeting with county staff, ODOT staff, and also the consultant, and put together the public involvement plan. We've put together the schedule and started putting together the fact sheet, which was included in your package for this evening. Today we had an update meeting just to give you an update on where we're at. So our project website, which the consultant is preparing, is expected to go live on March 17th. And that will be a website that is in both English and Spanish. And they have also been filming a video, an informational video that will be included on the website. And we just had our first draft for comment on that. It's a really nicely done video, so I hope that when it does go live that everyone will be pleased with it. We really want to make sure that we continue to get a lot of public outreach in this program or in this project. So we have scheduled for May 6th at 5:30 p.m. our first virtual live open house. And that will be an hour-long meeting from 5:30 to 6:30, where the public can attend, ask questions. There will be a presentation by the consultants at that meeting, and they will be there live to answer any questions that anyone might have. There is also going to be a project advisory committee meeting that will be held April 27th, and that's going to be from 3 to 5 p.m. And that's really more the technical advisory committee that will be bringing in the fire districts, representatives from the cities, the school districts, community members, property owners to begin this discussion and hashing out a lot of the technical details that will go into the plan. As we move forward following our May 6th public open house, we would expect 2 more public input sessions, one being tentatively scheduled for about mid-July, and then another one at the very beginning of November. And then following that, what is being proposed would be a joint work session with the Board of Commissioners, the Planning Commission, and the Reclands Advisory Board, where the consultants could come in at one meeting and give everyone a presentation. And that way everyone would be hearing the same information at the same time and getting the same questions and answers. Following that work session, what would happen then, the plan would individually go to the Recreational Lands Planning Advisory Committee and to our Planning Commission. Both of those committees and commissions would make formal recommendations to the board, and then the board, of course, would be the having a final adoption hearing for that, and we anticipate that process to begin sometime in January and end in February of next year. So even though we're a little bit behind on our schedule right now, I think that the consultants have made good progress moving forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I see Commissioner Thompson has a question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an astonishingly wonderful plan. What's not to love about it? Something I particularly loved on page 29 of our board packet, the demographic analysis. Environmental justice, I'm quoting, is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income. I have never seen that. That is astonishing and wonderful. I hope that we as a governing body look to have these kinds of demographic considerations in every kind of citizen participation that we support and use and define. So well done on this one, and let's keep on looking at the differential impact of income. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Banks?
Looking at page 33, I see landowner or forester. So just, and I'm assuming you've already probably addressed this, but is ODF Recreation going to be involved, or are we just doing a Recreational Lands Planning Advisory Committee? It's just a thought. I don't know, I don't, from the map, can't quite tell where these trails or roads lead or come from, but it, maybe again, you know, possibly one of the recreational people involved. I don't know. So.
Yeah, so to answer your
I
question, Commissioner
I
Banks.
can address that. I can address that directly, Gail.
Okay.
The Reclands Advisory Committee has an ODF person on it, a local ODF person on it. So they're very much tuned into that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, did we have any other questions? Any other? Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, of course I do. I have a couple of questions, Gail, about the map that's on page 19. How were these? I mean, I'm assuming that these are things that would have had to be in our STP, or, but you know, when was this map developed? Maybe that's my question.
Yes, this map was developed probably in late 2018, early 2019, when we were preparing our grant application, and we worked with Public Works and Emergency Management to put this together.
Oh, okay. So these are, okay. So the Parks Department was not involved in it?
No.
Okay. So we're assuming that these are basically part of our system of evacuation routes. Is it really true that we have no evacuation route groups south of 26?
Yeah, so there are very limited opportunities in the very south part of the county, mostly because Highway 101 will be gone most likely at that point. It is very difficult. So that is one of the things that the consultants will be looking at as part of this process. Are there routes that could be identified that perhaps we're not aware of or haven't given consideration to?
Oh, good. So they will be doing that. They'll be kind of taking a fresh look.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. The Parks Committee has been talking about this issue, not so much for an evacuation standpoint, but in terms of a hiking and other trails. I mean, we do have, you know, maps and things like that. So I'm wondering, I hope that the consultants will take a look at the materials from the Parks Department and maybe consider some of those. Can we make a note to include that? The Parks and Recland Committee is really a very strong group. And so I hope that all of them, that we can find a way to involve the whole committee in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Bangs, your earlier question about the forester, did you get that question answered?
Yes and no, but that, you know, having a recreational representative is good. I would encourage either the Sunset or the Jewel District to be involved, just depending on the location, because recreational foresters, they have a certain section of the land, but our planning foresters, they know those woods by the back of their hands. So just depending on the region, if we can possibly reach out, and I'm sure that they would know the perfect person. So, and Gail, thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. Gail, anything further?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Bangs' question. As part of our project advisory committee, we have identified that we need to have staff from ODF, ODFW, and Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. So I haven't identified a specific individual from ODF yet. So if you have a name that you think would be a good candidate, we're going to be doing the outreach for that committee later this week, early next week to finalize that.
Ty Williams is a perfect person to reach out to. He knows his staff extremely well. Yeah, I would say reach out to Ty and he would be able to lead you in the correct direction on that note. And then, again, I appreciate the efforts up until this point. And off the top of my head, when we say foresters, we're also assuming that any private lands, Hampton, Greenwood, any affected adjacent landowners, the conversations. I know that you're probably doing your due diligence in that effort, but they are also very knowledgeable. And sadly, our roads change regularly when you enter the woods, and so just once we have these routes identified or these paths identified, and fortunately they're obviously evacuation routes, and so yeah, no, I just making sure that we have all of our folks in the same basket having the same conversation is good. So thank you.
Agreed, Commissioner Banks. Thank you very much. Well, that is the end of our work session. It is time to go into the regular session at this time. Thank you, Gail. So at this time, the Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. Can we take the roll call, please?
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Toyoka,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Chair Aquila.
Here. And next is the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Thompson.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Business for the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings. We do have a public hearing this evening. So this is for items that are not on the public hearing or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are any members of the public signed up to speak?
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the
So
consent
moved.
calendar.
Okay, did we get that? It was Commissioner Toyoka and Commissioner Webb, was that correct?
Correct.
That's close enough.
That's a tough one. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll start with Commissioner Liaison reports. Commissioner Bangs.
So I had a wonderful meeting with our fair board last week. I am forever impressed. They have done an extremely good job over the pandemic with their budget and are discussing, and I am also impressed, they are determined for an in-person fair this year. And I was so grateful as a parent, but also as a commissioner to hear that. They are ready. They've discussed lengthening, not the fair activities per se, but the children's fair experience. So instead of their animal shows being in that same window that fair is with all the fair activities, they're actually stretching that out to a 10-day situation. So the children will be at the fairgrounds before the actual fair opens in order to get their shows in for all their animals, horse, poultry, the whole list, the whole kit and caboodle. And so I was so grateful to hear that because I know our children desperately need that in-person situation. And the fair board has problem solved within the matrix. They're ready for almost anything at this point to occur or change. And not only that, they've done some upgrades on their current facilities, some the hand washing, the sinks in the bathrooms are all automatic now. And so that's just the little things, but it's good news for us in this pandemic in order to regulate germ spread and so on and so forth. And they've done some great work just in general, and they have a lot of plans for outreach for our children. Upcoming is a movie night at the fairgrounds, and it's going to be free. It was as donation, off the top of my head, I can't remember who donated, I'm sorry. But so yeah, they're opening up and they're thinking about our kids. And again, they have served us with our vaccination response. And so it was very exciting and enjoyable to sit down with them and discuss their plans for the future. And I attended the Natural Resources AOC meeting. That was an experience. I'm looking forward to reaching out to some other commissioners over in Columbia County to learn a little bit more. They've just discussed weeds and water, and hemp. That was another one, weeds, water, and hemp. And so it's definitely just exciting to be involved, and it's fun to learn new things. So anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. And again, that's Friday night. They're having the movie Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. Fairgrounds, 5:30.
Yeah.
And the county health department has been working with the fairgrounds to make sure that it's well managed and safe for everybody. So yeah, that's fantastic. That'll be great.
Get your popcorn in.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Well, isn't that a bit of happy news? We need happy news. I have an email that is an invitation. I think it came to all the commissioners. They're having a focus group regarding Oregon State University's search for a vice provost for extension and engagement. It's set for this Friday, March 12th from 9:30 to 10:30. I'm previously scheduled, but I hope one or more of my colleagues will attend. This is a very important community service. They're a valued partner, and I hope we weigh in on what we need and want from them. That's this Friday. On a sad note, Lynn County Commissioner John Lindsay died this week. He has 54 years old and has been a county commissioner for 20 some years. So he's done this pretty much all of his adult life. He could be such a pain in the neck because he just, you know what I mean? John Lindsay would stop a meeting in a heartbeat to look out for what Lynn County needed. So he was an inspiration or a burr, depending on your point of view. But I don't know of anybody who was more devoted to the well-being of his county. And he will be greatly missed. So just noting his passage with grief and with appreciation for his family and for his colleagues for his wonderful service. Yeah, here we go. Colpack and Northwest Act meet tomorrow. You'll remember that the Broadband Action Team is part of Colpack. We are working collaboratively in this region. Colpack and Northwest Act is Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties. When we deal with AOC, Lincoln County is added to District 7, but otherwise our regular partners in our regional collaboration are Columbia and Tillamook counties. So working together with them. And you'll recall the meeting of the Broadband Action Team said that we are going to focus on getting the middle mile built so that there is an infrastructure from which other modalities can be utilized, you know, whether it's the those satellites, Elon Musk satellites, or hard connections or what, you know what I mean? All of it, that middle mile is the crucial element. And so that's what we're going to focus on. And that's all I can say right now. Thank you, colleagues.
I
Thank you,
wanted to
Commissioner
interrupt
Thompson.
really fast, Mark, and it's M&M Workwear that is sponsoring the event Friday night.
Okay.
I just wanted to give credit where credit was due.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. And thank you for that report, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, I really have no report specifically, but it occurs to me after listening to Commissioner Bang's presentation that the fairgrounds have enormous air systems. I mean, I know that just over the past few years, they've invested money in all kinds of things. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't maybe ask our health department or something to take a look at maybe using some of the facilities at the fairgrounds for some outdoor activities this summer. I don't know, just an idea, but because I love the fairgrounds. So, and I assume everybody got the word that they've decided to burn down the house that's on the fairgrounds. But they tried hard to save it. And that's, but it's going to break my heart to see it burn down.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. I know they did their due diligence there, and I'm anxious to see the fairgrounds more active and have kids out there again this summer. Commissioner Toyoka.
Hello. Nothing new to report beyond what was stated in the work session, although I do have one comment. I've been stopped by some people about our previous, the board, and maybe it wasn't as harmonious, and I told them it's not been my perception. I've been only doing this for 3 months or so, but I believe it's been a wonderful experience so far. And I went to a service academy, the Naval Academy. We studied a lot of philosophy of war and art of war, and Aristotle, Socrates, and and it brought me to the fact of, they said, you're so different, all 5 of you, a lot of different perspectives and viewpoints. How can you take that? And I go, well, I embrace the differences personally. You go back to Socrates, and it said basically, unity destroys a state. Plurality is what maintains a state, and it, if you have unity, it provides less of a state. So I think, as we 5, so far, we appreciate what each individual brings to the table, and would have open discussions. And I think we're, kind of acting in the mind of Socrates, where he said strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and weak minds discuss people. So I do believe that we're in that vein of, we appreciate the differences of each other, and then take those ideas and, continue the thought process of ideas. So I appreciate, it's just, again, just more of a statement than, but so far I'd like to contradict some of the statements I've heard out there, and I've had a wonderful experience in the first 3 months.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. I think that's really well put. And I keep thinking, our similarities far outweigh our differences. And I think we are working well together. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to working together in the months and years to come. I really don't have any liaison report, so I'll go ahead right to the county manager.
Thank you, Chair Quayla, members of the board. I just wanted to share a couple items that are going on right now that are taking a lot of staff time. And one is the annual budget process. As I know you are aware, it's an important process that will culminate in budget hearings towards the end of the fiscal year. And this is a process that touches every department and every office in the organization. So a lot of effort goes into that, and your board thankfully gave us a little bit of a roadmap through the strategic planning process. There's still a lot of uncertainty with some of these funding sources that may be coming down, but staff's doing a great job, and I just want to thank them for all of their time and investment. The other, what I was going to mention real quickly too, is the collective bargaining process. We're going to be bargaining with one of our union starting this week. And so we've had a succession of union negotiations, and so that will continue. So as we move through that, we will keep your board up to speed, and then ideally there'll be a new agreement that'll come to your board sometime before the end of the fiscal year. So that's my report. Thank you.
Well, thank you, County Manager. We'll move on to the first item on the agenda here, which is the public hearing. Item 9, ordinance number 21-01, standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights of way. This is the time set for a public hearing on ordinance number 21-01, standards for access permits and other activities occurring in the public right of way, and we'll now receive the staff report.
Hello, Commissioners. Ted McLean, Public Works Director. We're coming before you today to talk about the use of the county right-of-way, specifically allowing business. And in September 2020, the county placed a moratorium on allowing business to be conducted within the right-of-way. And that would give us time as staff to research what other jurisdictions are doing and monitor safety and public nuisance concerns. And since then, we've had 3 separate work sessions to discuss this. And based on those work sessions, and specifically since the last one on March 2nd, we received comments, and the major changes to the proposed ordinance includes language prohibiting commercial activity in the right-of-way, and that proposed language, which has been updated based on the feedback of March 2nd. And that proposed language is the commercial use of right-of-way prohibited, except as provided in this chapter or in a lease approved by the Board of Commissioners. No person shall use the right-of-way for commercial purposes. Commercial use means the use of the right-of-way for business or financial transactions. So what we'd like to ask the board this evening is to conduct the first reading of ordinance 2101 and open the public hearing and take testimony and continue the matter to March 24th.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay. May we have the first reading by title only?
Clatsop County standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights of way ordinance.
At this time, I will open the public hearing on ordinance number 21-01. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report?
No.
See none. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay. If you don't have any other comment, I will go ahead and continue the public hearing to March 24th. And we'll move on to the business agenda. Thank you, Ted. You've got the Enterprise Zone Agreement, SDYB OPCO Enterprise Zone Agreement, page 121. And who is going to be presenting on this?
Chair Quayla, I'll go ahead and give a quick overview, and then Kevin Leahy is on the line as well as the applicants if there's any questions. But really quickly, as an overview, on February 10th, members of the 4 jurisdictions participating in the Enterprise Zone held a work session to learn about the application submitted. At that time, I'm sorry, I've lost my place. At that time, there was a presentation about the actual application, and this is an application by SDYB Opco Enterprise. SDYB Opco intends to invest approximately $10 million by establishing a fish meal processing facility in Warrenton. SDYB Opco is a joint venture of Scholar, DeYang, and Bornstein Seafoods. As part of the application, SDYB Opco is required to comply with minimum employment figures, minimum employee total compensation provisions, and minimum employee wage requirements. The agreement would further provide a 5-year tax abatement on new investments made to the property. SDYB Opco will continue to be assessed and pay taxes on the value of the current land and building. The estimated amount of abated taxes over the 5-year period for Clatsop County is approximately $72,000, 4-H extension approximately $2,200, and the local option about $2,400 for a total of $77,000 roughly. And then that's my quick overview. If the board has any questions, as I said, we have folks here. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Any questions for, I know we have Kevin Leahy from Cedars joining us as well. I see Melanie Olson is also on this meeting. Any questions at all? Well, if we don't have any questions, the proposed motion is to adopt the resolution order improving the enterprise zone agreement. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board adopt the resolution and order approving the enterprise zone agreement between SDYB Opco and Clatsop County.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the resolution and order approving the enterprise zone agreement between SDYB Opco and Clatsop County. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Go forth and make money.
Yes, absolutely. Next is item 11, the Bowie Beer Enterprise Zone Agreement. It's on page 152 of the packet.
Chair Quayla, members of the board, again, on February 10th, 4 jurisdictions participated in a work session to be introduced to an enterprise zone application by Bowie Beer. River Barrel Brewing is the actual company, and they intend to invest approximately $8 million by redeveloping the properties located on 8th and Astor Streets in Astoria. River Barrel Brewing is required to comply with minimum employment figures, minimum employee total compensation provisions, and minimum employee wage requirements. The agreement further provides a 5-year tax abatement on new investments. River Barrel will continue to be assessed and pay taxes on the value of current land and building. The estimated amount of abated taxes over the 5-year period for Clatsop County is approximately $61,000, 4-H approximately $1,900, and local option approximately $1,900 for a total of roughly $65,000. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. Any questions for staff or our guests? Okay, if none, can we entertain a motion?
Certainly. Chair, I move that the board adopt the resolution and order approving the enterprise zone agreement between Bowie Beer and Clatsop County.
I don't mean to
Second.
interrupt. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Were you seconding? That's fine.
Is that a
No,
second?
I'm just wondering if we needed the motion to state River Barrel View Brewing or not. Is it okay to be Bowie?
County Council's nodding her head, so yes.
Okay, so do we add it then the motion?
I'm sorry. So I think Bowie Beer, you are it is fine to have that motion. We can tell the intent of the motion.
Between Bowie, Beer, and Clatsop County. Okay, so it's been moved. We have a second, correct? Okay. Moved and seconded to adopt the resolution in order approving the enterprise zone agreement between Bowie, Beer, and Clatsop County. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye. No.
All those opposed?
I have a meeting. I'm in a meeting.
Okay.
sister.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kevin. Melanie.
Thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you, everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Item 12 is the appointment of Budget Committee members on page 159 of the packet.
Hi, Commissioners. Monica Steele, Assistant County Manager. So it's that time of year requesting appointments for the Budget Committee, and this year has been a little bit harder than in previous years. And so we started advertising for the vacancies on the countywide Budget Committee, as well as for the 4-H and Extension, Westport Sewer, and Road Districts. We originally received 2 applicants. We originally received 2 applicants for District 3. And since then, Mr. Marquis has withdrawn his application. And so we are recommending that the board make an appointment for the District 3 committee, and then we will continue to advertise for the District 4 position, as well as the vacancies that are on the district budget committees as well, and then bring those before you for discussion in April.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. Any questions? Commissioner Webb.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to share with you why I was pleased to have Danelle Davis reapply for this position. Just on a side note, I think the idea that perhaps on our advisory groups, it's a good idea to have people's first term be for 3 years. If the issue is that you want people to get smart and to learn, that's just a side, that's just something for the staff to cogitate about. But when this appointment came up a couple of years ago, I was particularly hoping that someone in the Jeffers Gardens area, which is the commercial center of my district south of Astoria, and I was really hoping that somebody would apply, because I wanted a business person. I really, in that area. And I actually knocked on doors there among the businesses. And Danelle Davis came forward. She actually doesn't live in the district, but she lives 1 block outside of my district into Marks. But her veterinary clinic is on Business 101, and she's hooked into all the folks who live there and own property there, etc. So I felt she was a good choice. It's just nice to have some, I think, variety. I mean, I really like the idea when people come from the unincorporated parts of the county and come and learn more about our government and give us opinions from businesses. I was particularly really wanted to embrace that. And so I'm pleased that she has agreed to serve a full term. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb. So I think the proposed motion, or the motion that we could go with, would be to approve Danelle Davis to fill the District 3 countywide position, and at the same time continue to advertise for the District 4 countywide position. Does that sound good to everybody?
So moved.
And then
Second.
do we want to also include in that motion then the road district and the 4-H extension as well?
Oh, yes. Oh,
So we could
yes.
make all that all within one motion. We could probably do this.
Okay. Wait a minute. Wait.
Page 161, yeah. So the only thing is, how do you pronounce, is it Duhacek? Is that it?
Do a check?
Duhacek, thank you.
Ooh.
Trying to help you out, Commissioner Webb.
Well, I'm like Mark. I've got a funky fast last name that people always have trouble pronouncing, and I strive so hard to pronounce people's names correctly, and I so often don't get it. I mean, for
Yep.
somebody who speaks 3 languages, it should be embarrassing to me, but I just credit it to old age and forgetfulness.
Monica, you had
Okay.
something you wanted to add?
Chair Quayla, if I could just clarify for staff, I think the motion will be to appoint Danelle Davis to District 3 for the countywide, and then continue recruitments for the countywide budget committee and for the district budget committees.
So moved.
Second. But what with the inclusion of, remember Ben Bartlett to fill the road district number 1 position, and Patrick Duhacek to fill the 4-H and extension service district position. I think that's the motion you made, isn't it, Commissioner Webb?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
And I second that. Pass it up again. Come on, County Manager, help us.
Well, I guess that what staff's suggestion is to appoint District 3 for the countywide, and then we will come back once we finish the recruitment for the other committees and have a conversation at that point. So today we would only be appointing Danelle Davis, and then once we get done recruiting, then we will come back with the others.
Okay, thank you for that. I was confused. Thank you.
It takes a county manager to raise a village of commissioners in the last of the
So
meeting.
true.
You,
So
sir.
true.
It's like herding not just cats, but maybe mountain lions
Okay,
or
so
Nittany lions for those of us from Pennsylvania.
so we have we moved that? Have we moved and seconded that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So we moved and seconded to approve Danelle Davis to fill the District 3 countywide position and to continue the recruitment to fill the District 4 countywide position on the Budget Committee and the other positions as well. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have anything for the good of the order? Okay. Hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
everybody. Now, of course.